Another comment I saw that I wanted to respond to is some people were asking, like, "Oh, Ryan, what happened to your dogs in Uganda?" So in April of 2023, I moved out of that big house I was renting in Uganda. So I was renting a house. It was 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. It had a guest house, and it was in a gated compound. And I was paying $140 for rent, which is just like unbelievable. I mean, it wasn't like a Western house, you know. It was a Ugandan style house, pretty basic. Not it wasn't like super nice or anything, but definitely definitely comfortable by Ugandan standards. So yeah, in that house, I lived with my 6 dogs, and my girlfriend, and um, my dogs are my life. I love those dogs like they're my family. And so in April of 2023, I moved out of that big house into just a one room, I don't know what you would call it in American English, like apartment, but it was like not even comparable to an American apartment. It's like literally just a room with a concrete floor and 4 walls. That's it. It's about 15 feet by 15 feet. It would be comparable to like a garage, like a small garage in the US. Like literally nothing. No bathroom, no furniture, no flooring. It's a concrete floor. So I moved into one of those, and the rent there was I think it was 50,000 UGX a month, which is like $12, or maybe it was a little more. No, it couldn't have been that cheap. Maybe it was no, I think it was like $24 a month. Anyways, really cheap, right? And it was so that was kind of a good experience. I mean, it wasn't okay. It was a good experience because I really lived among, like, I lived with Ugandans the way, like, a majority of Ugandans live. So for them, $25 a month for rent is like, some of them can barely make that, with all their other expenses. But yeah, I lived in a compound, and this place had about, I don't know, 10 to 15 units in this compound. And wow, I mean, that could be a whole new video talking about that. But anyways, the reason I moved into this like compound with all these other Ugandans was I was planning to go back to America, but I noticed that so originally I had planned to I had a well, actually it was my house girl. So when I first got to Uganda, actually I met this lady in the village, and she became my house girl. House girl means like a maid, but over there they call them house girls. And I paid her every month, and she would clean my house and do my laundry and cook my meals. And she worked with me for, I don't know, a year or so, and so I trusted her, and we became friends and everything. Her name was Rose. And so originally I was gonna have her take care of my dogs, but then my girlfriend's sister came to visit us, and my girlfriend told her sister, like, oh, Ryan's gonna have his former house girl take care of the dogs. And my girlfriend's sister was like, oh, I would like to do it. Like, that's a job I would like to do. And she pretty much, begged me. And I said, okay, I'll think about it. And I was actually like, it impressed me that she really wanted to do it. Whereas I was trying to arrange things with Rose, and Rose was kind of like dragging her feet a little bit, because like, one thing is, like, in order for Rose to keep the dogs, she would have had to build a fence around her property to contain them. And by containing the dogs, I don't mean that the purpose of building a fence would be to protect the people, but the purpose of the fence would be actually to protect the dogs, because yeah, this is hard to understand if you've never lived in Africa, but people there are pretty freaking cruel. If they have a grudge against you, if they have a grudge against you or your dog, a lot of people will like kill your dog. You know, they'll poison it. They'll put poison in some meat or something, or you know, they'll kill it another way. Like there was one lady that just didn't like one of my dogs, and so she threw boiling water on it. And just people there are just they're backwards, they're primitive, and completely uncompassionate towards animals for the most part. I mean, not everybody's that way, but I mean, compared to Westerners, it's a different world over there, and there's not a lot of room in their life to care about anything that's suffering. Like, you know, they're suffering themselves. Okay, I'm not going to make excuses for them. Still, their behavior is unacceptable and unethical. But anyways, yeah, the purpose of the fence was actually to protect the dogs from bad people. So Rose was kind of dragging her feet on getting like estimates about how much it would cost to build the fence, which I was going to pay for. And then you know, my girlfriend's sister was really motivated, even though, so Rose, the reason I considered Rose to take care of my dogs was because Rose knew the dogs. She would walk the dogs. The dogs would come to her house sometimes, and we'd hang out there. So she knew how to take care of my dogs. So she was a good candidate to do it. Whereas my girlfriend's sister didn't know anything about dogs. But when I saw like how motivated she was to do the job, and my girlfriend's sister had her own land, and it was in a rural area, like very rural area. Like I'm talking like you got to take a ferry across a peninsula, and then on that island, well, it's not an island, it was a peninsula. I don't know what you call the other side of a peninsula, an inlet. Anyways, in that area, super rural. Then after you get to the port of the inlet, you'd have to take a motorcycle down a long dirt road. You know, it's just very, very rural out there. And so I like that. Whereas the place where Rose lived was kind of in a, I mean, by Ugandan village standards, it was a little more dense. Like there was like more people around and stuff. And anyways, so I decided to give my girlfriend's sister a chance, and so I went to go visit her land and her house for the first time, and it's like, yeah, this would actually be a good place for my dogs. So yeah, so I made the decision to let my girlfriend's sister take care of my dogs. Another good thing about that is I knew that, like, okay, when I go back to America, all I can do is call Rose. All I can do is call Rose and ask her how things are going. Maybe I can do a video call with her on WhatsApp, and that's it. But I knew that if my girlfriend's sister took care of my dogs, I would have that liaison between me and the sister, which was my girlfriend. And I could have my girlfriend go and check and make sure the dogs are okay. And if my girlfriend's sister messed up or did something, I could have my girlfriend go and talk to her. So that was comforting to know that. So my plan was, like, once I moved out of that big house where I lived with my dogs, my girlfriend. My plan was to go back to America within about 3 months. So, long story short is after 3 months, so my dogs, I relocated my dogs to my girlfriend's sister's land. Super rural area. I mean, I think I have some videos of like where she lives and everything on Patreon. But anyways, super rural area. Like they don't have electricity there, plumbing, anything. They live in a mud hut. And so relocated my dogs there, and we built it like an enclosure for the dogs, like a big room, basically, like it's about 12 by 12, where it was roofed and everything, and they could put their beds. And I got everything. Had to put fencing around the sister's property as well, which cost a good amount of money. But anyways, got that all set up. And so my plan was to go back to America after 3 months. So in the meantime, I was going to see my dogs. I was living on one side of the peninsula. The sister was on the other side of the peninsula. I was going to see the dogs twice a week. And every time I'd go there, and I mean, I expected this. I had to teach. Well, the first time I went, I actually stayed for 2 weeks with the sister and her family. She has like 4 kids. Really great kids, lovely. Only one of them could speak English, the oldest one, who was 18. The others couldn't speak English. But I mean, I stayed with them for 2 weeks, and I taught them how to take care of the dogs and kind of the rules and what I expected. And you would think, like, in your Western mind, you would think, oh, what's the big deal about taking care of a dog? Like, I had to teach these people, like, that dogs need water. They need to have access to water every day. That they need to be fed every day. And you're probably thinking that's common sense. That's not common sense to an African. And it's sad, but you see a lot of, they call them village dogs, that kind of live on the fringes of the village or in the village, and people don't feed those dogs. Those dogs they survive off scraps. They rummage through trash piles. A lot of them get sick, and they have severe skin infections. I've seen a lot, and it's super disheartening. And so anyways, my point is that most Africans don't even understand that you need to properly care for a dog, that it has to have access to water all the time, that it needs to be fed, that it needs a place out of the elements, out of the rain. It needs like a quiet place where it can rest and have privacy and safety from the elements. I had to teach her and her children all of this, and then I had to teach her how to walk the dogs and the commands and like kind of the psychology. I had to teach her that dogs have a dominance hierarchy, and which I have 6 dogs, so I had to teach her which one was highest and which one was lowest, and how they interacted with each other, and what to do if they fight, and also, like, if you baby a dog too much, if you give a dog an inch, it'll take a mile. So I had to teach her how to deal with the dogs trying to overstep their bounds, and how to discipline them, and everything, and I thought I could do all that in 3 months, but after 3 months went by, I realized that we weren't even close to like really getting to a standard of care that I was comfortable with. So long story short, it ended up being about 10, 11 months before I could see that my girlfriend's sister was doing a good job, was comfortable with the dogs, and the dogs were comfortable with her. And so basically what I'm saying is, like, that's what extended my stay in Uganda a whole extra year. It's just making sure, like, I had to feel almost 100% sure in my heart that my dogs were going to be well taken care of. And of course I was paying my my girlfriend's sister for this every month. And, you know, yeah, so that's it. That took about a year to get that all settled. So part of our agreement, I mean, it's a job. And part of our agreement is that she has to send me photos and videos 3 times a week, showing that she's, you know, that the dogs have water, food, that she's walking them, and that their bedding is there, and, you know, everything's okay. So, yeah, and it's been going smoothly since I came back to America. She's been living up to my expectations and caring for the dogs, and I miss them like crazy. In fact, you know, I can't say, you know, like, okay, my job is kind of like, it's a job. It's a job, guys. I do it to make money. Is it something I'm passionate about? You know, not really, but I do my best, you know, because I respect my employers, and they're paying me well, and they're treating me well, and I'm grateful for that. But often you know, during kind of the mundane part of my day where I'm just kind of going through the motions, I kind of drift off mentally, and I think of my dogs, and I just think of like one of the things I loved doing most with them was going on these evening walks and watching them run and chase cane rats and hunt for cane rats and chase squirrels, and they were just so happy and they loved being with me. And I go back to those memories, and I think, oh man, I can't wait to be with them again, you know. And I'm going to. I don't want to go more than a year and a half without seeing them. My goal is to get back there in a year. Now, I don't know if I'll be staying like for a long time. Like last time I was in Uganda, I was there for 5 years. But what I want to do is I want to go back and rent a nice house again and live with them. You know, I'll probably stay for 3 months maybe. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that day.